The court wrote that Jefferson's comments may be accepted almost as an authoritative declaration of the scope and effect of the First Amendment. In Everson versus the Board of Education, Justice Hugo Black wrote, "In the words of Thomas Jefferson, the clause against establishment of religion by law may be intended to erect a wall of separation between church and state." Also, the First Amendment gives each American the right to worship or not worship any god they please. It's not dictated into one specific religion. So I'm sure that you can see now that the Founding Fathers were very against having religion in our government. And the majority of Americans would agree with this basic idea. But even today, in the year 2012, religion is being pushed in our government. As I stated before, 16% of the American public categorize themselves as people of non-belief. That makes the fastest growing belief group in America. 10.3% of Americans believe in other religions: Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism. So you just really have to ask yourself, why is this problem just getting worse in our country? Conservative Republicans make up one of the largest political parties in America. One of their key objectives is to keep Christian fundamentalism in our government. Even today, as I was getting ready for this speech, I was bombarded by these flyers, and I'll just read some of these to you. Conservative common sense. This is for Senate, and then there's this one, fierce conservative. And then I had a whole bunch just advertising for their conservative values, and these people are expecting to be elected into office not based off their political philosophies, but that they're conservative and because they're Christians. And this has been going on for years, and it's still going on today, and it will only get worse. This religious problem in our government can be seen even in our government buildings. As you walk into the building that houses the Supreme Court, you will see, on top of the building, you will see a long list of lawgivers, and in the center is one facing forward out. It's the most obvious one, and that is Moses holding the Ten Commandments. There are Bible verses etched in stone all over federal buildings and monuments in Washington, D.C. Every session of Congress begins with a prayer by a paid pastor, which salary has been paid with taxpayer money since 1789. Why is it we see the Christian Ten Commandments on buildings, but we don't see any of the Islamic pillars of faith on any government buildings? Why don't we see many of the Hindu texts on justice, or many of Buddha's saying on truth and justice? The fact is, you'll never see that. It's just a Christian bias in our nation, and it goes really deep into the heart of our nation. It's even in our school systems. Our school systems is our last hope for our children. Education is key if you're ever going to go any place in life, but even there is religious intolerance in the classroom. Schools all over America are banning well-known scientific facts such as evolution and the Big Bang Theory from being taught in classrooms, or making it okay for creationism to be taught next to evolution as if it was a fact. Science needs to stay in the biology class, and mythology needs to stay in the churches. The ideas of creationism being considered a science is very frustrating, but it's also kind of humorous for those who have to endure that kind of classroom. But this should never happen. The kind of funny thing about it is that it's only Christian creationism that they're being taught. You never will hear the ideas of Buddha's creation or recreation, or any of the Hindu ideas of creation. It's really no wonder that our youth today can't pass state standardized testing, and that the dropout rate just keeps growing. If you were to look around at our youth today, one thing you would notice that many of them have kids, or kids having kids, as I like to call it. But why is this happening? Other than, a lack of self-control, or which can go back to a lack of discipline or whatever, it's because they don't have proper education. One of the major problems is a lack of education, or sex education. In the state of Alabama, abstinence-based sex education is the only sex education that kids will receive. And it's no wonder that Alabama has one of the highest teen pregnancy ratings in the United States. The teen pregnancy and not having a proper education on sex education is a problem throughout America. Even here in Idaho, I've only ever had one sex class in my whole life, and I am 3 years behind in my education, and that was a safe sex class when I was in 9th grade, and that was it. We never learned anything about safe sex. I learned that from TV, which is kind of pathetic. That should be the school's job, to educate kids on that kind of stuff, and it's not happening because of this religious bias in our classrooms. Religious bigotry and intolerance is not only seen in our government and hurting our youth, but it's also taking away the rights of good tax-paying citizens. If you are a homosexual in America, you are still under the same laws, you still have to pay taxes, but you can't get married. Marriage should be a fundamental human right, not even just an American liberty. But in America, if you're homosexual, if you're in love with somebody, you can't get married to that person. And in many states, it's against the law. There is something very wrong with that. You should be allowed to marry the person that you're in love with. Other person's belief systems should not interfere with that. In America, you have the right to go to the doctor. If you can't afford it, there's tons of government agencies out there that will help you pay for your doctor bills, unless you want contraception or some kind of women's health of that nature. You're kind of screwed. It's not uncommon for Congress to take money from women's health. It's just kind of become a norm. It just happened a few weeks ago, matter of fact. And this is because in Christianity, or the Christian-based belief system, both of those are considered a sin. Once again, it's Christian intolerance in our government. As we can see, pretty much America's problems all stem from this religious intolerance. So what can we do about this? This is a huge issue in America. What can we do to stop this? One major tool we have is the law. By knowing your rights and freedoms, you can recognize religious intolerance and you can stop it. Knowing you have the right to your own mind, your own beliefs, and your own truth is key to stopping religion and government. Also, by demanding a real education, by demanding a proper education on every topic, on sex education, in your biology class, and saying, no, I don't want to learn this mythology. It has no room in my science class. It has no room in my sex education class. Your voice can cause that. Just recently in New Jersey, a girl took her school to the New Jersey State Board of Education because they refused to take down a bulletin in their cafeteria that said "God bless America" and take creationism out of the classroom. She took the school to the State Board of Education of New Jersey, and they did. They took it down. They found that it was unconstitutional, and they're rewriting their curriculum because of that one girl stood up and her voice was heard. Lastly, by voting for people who understand the ideas of separation of church and state, understanding that our founding fathers wanted a strong secular government. They didn't want religious intolerance in our government. Every person in America has the right to believe what they want to believe. It's a basic human idea. It's liberty and freedom is what our founding fathers wanted. But this religious intolerance, it's getting out of hand. But by being educated, by knowing the law, knowing your rights, and voting for the proper people into office, we can stop this. We can stop the religious intolerance in our classroom. America needs to be a place of opportunity for all people, of all religions, of all creeds, of all sexes, and sexual orientations. So I hope we can stop this problem, and I hope my speech was educational. Thank you.